This is my true story. I lived my life as a husband who trusted his wife more than anyone else. I believed loyalty and love were enough to hold a marriage strong. But instead of respect, I was mocked. She laughed at me in front of our family, saying I was blind, saying I was a fool for trusting her too much. Her words cut deep, but I stayed quiet, because I already knew the truth she thought I would never see. I exposed her. Before I tell you how, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and please subscribe so my story can reach more people. I spent my entire life believing that marriage was built on trust, sacrifice, and loyalty. From the day I married my wife, I never questioned her. I thought love was about giving without holding back, about believing in the person you chose to spend your life with, and about standing together through every storm. I trusted her the way a man should trust his partner, fully and completely, with no suspicion and no doubt. When we were younger, I worked long hours to keep a roof over our heads, and when money was tight, I gave up things I wanted so she would never feel the burden. I thought my sacrifices were proof of my love. When she wanted new clothes, I found a way to make it happen. When she wanted to travel, I saved until we could afford it. When she needed comfort during hard times, I stood by her side and told her she was not alone. I thought this devotion would be enough, that a woman who had all of my heart and all of my years would never look elsewhere. Through sickness, through bills, through family struggles, I carried the weight and told myself it was what a husband should do. I believed she looked at me with respect for the life I was building for us. I believed she loved me as much as I loved her. When she smiled at me, I thought it was because she felt safe with me. When she laughed, I thought it was because we were happy together. I trusted her with everything, my money, my heart, my future. I even trusted her with my weaknesses, telling her fears I never told anyone else, believing she would hold them gently. I believed our bond was unbreakable, even as the years passed and old age came closer. I thought loyalty would carry us through. I thought the vows we made would still mean something decades later. I thought all the years of sacrifice, the comfort I gave her, the dreams I supported, would come back to me as respect, love, and faithfulness. I was wrong. The night she mocked me is burned into my memory because it was the moment everything I believed in shattered. It happened during a family gathering, when the house was full of relatives, laughter, and the kind of noise that usually feels warm and safe. I sat at the table, thinking it was just another evening to enjoy with family, but she had different plans. Out of nowhere, she turned the conversation toward me. With a smirk on her face, she said I was too blind, that I trusted her too much, that I was foolish for believing in her so completely. She laughed as she said it, and her laugh cut me deeper than any insult I had ever heard. She looked around the table, almost inviting others to join in, and some of the guests chuckled awkwardly, not because they agreed, but because they did not know what else to do. In that moment, I felt stripped bare in front of the people who had known us for years. I had always been the man who sacrificed quietly, who worked hard, who gave everything to her, and now I was being reduced to a joke in my own home. She called me blind, she called me naive, and she said it with such arrogance that I knew these were not words spoken in anger. They were words she had been holding, words she enjoyed saying, words that came from a place of pride. Pride that I trusted her, and she thought she had fooled me. My dignity collapsed in that moment. I wanted to defend myself, to remind everyone of what I had done for her, of the loyalty I had given, but no words came out. I sat silent while her laughter echoed in my ears. My heart pounded, my face burned, and I felt smaller than I had ever felt in my life. I could see the pity in the eyes of some family members, the discomfort in others, and it only added to the humiliation. She enjoyed it, sitting tall in her chair, smiling at her own cruelty. That night, I realized that the woman I trusted above all had no respect left for me. She wanted to humiliate me, and she did it with confidence because she thought I would never know the truth. After that night, when she mocked me in front of the family and called me blind, I could no longer ignore the signs that had been troubling me for months. I had tried to push them aside, telling myself that I was overthinking, that the late-night messages on her phone were innocent, that the sudden trips and errands were just part of life, that the absences I noticed were coincidences. But her arrogance that evening told me something deeper. She mocked me because she thought she had won. She thought I was too blind to ever discover what she was hiding. That laugh was not just a joke, it was pride. And so I began paying closer attention. I noticed how her phone never left her side, how she would take it into the bathroom, how she would hide the screen when I walked into the room. I noticed how she left the house dressed as if she were going somewhere more important than the errands she claimed. I noticed how she would come home late with excuses that grew weaker each time. My gut told me what my heart did not want to believe. She was with someone else. For weeks, I watched quietly, saying nothing, keeping my head low but my eyes open. Then one night, when she was careless, her phone buzzed while she was in the shower. I picked it up, and what I found confirmed my worst fears. The messages were there, dozens of them, with another man. They spoke of love, of secret meetings, of plans that explained every absence. They laughed at me in those messages, calling me predictable, calling me easy to fool. I scrolled through photos she had sent, smiling in ways I had not seen in years, dressing for him the way she no longer dressed for me. My chest grew heavy, my heart pounded, but I kept reading because I needed the truth. And the truth was undeniable. She was having an affair. The woman I had trusted with everything had betrayed me in the most painful way. I sat with the phone in my hand, feeling like the floor had collapsed under me. Her mockery now made sense. She ridiculed me for trusting her because she was confident I would never see her lies. She thought I would remain blind forever. But she was wrong. I saw it all, and I saved it all. Every message, every photo, every detail was now mine to carry. It broke me, but it also gave me strength, because I knew one day the same family she mocked me in front of would see who the real fool was. After I uncovered her affair, I spent many nights sitting alone in silence, thinking about everything that had happened. I replayed her words from the family gathering over and over in my mind, her laugh when she mocked me for trusting her too much. The way she looked at me like I was nothing more than a blind old fool. Those words mixed with the messages and photos I had seen on her phone, and together they crushed me. I thought about the years I had given her, the decades of sacrifice, the times I worked through sickness and exhaustion so she would never have to struggle. I thought about how I trusted her when she said she loved me, how I believed her when she said she would always be by my side. Every memory that once gave me comfort now cut me like a knife, because I realized that while I was giving her everything, she was giving herself to another man. The humiliation she gave me in front of family became the turning point of my life. For the first time, I understood that trust had made me a fool, but I also realized I did not have to stay a fool forever. Her betrayal had opened my eyes, and her mockery had awakened something in me. I decided I would not let her destroy me quietly. I would not sit in the shadows while she laughed in the light. She thought my silence was weakness, but it was not. My silence was planning. I told myself that revenge would not come with yelling. It would not come with fists. It would not come with the same cruelty she used against me. My revenge would come with truth. The same family she used to humiliate me would become the witnesses of her downfall. She wanted to embarrass me in front of them, so I would expose her in front of them. I began to feel calm again, not because the pain was gone, but because I knew what I had to do. I would carry the evidence quietly until the right moment. And when that moment came, her laughter would stop forever. Once I decided that I would no longer stay quiet, I turned all of my focus toward collecting every piece of proof I could find. I knew if I wanted to expose her lies in front of the same family she mocked me before, I could not go in with half-truths or accusations. I needed evidence so clear, so undeniable, that no one could defend her. So I went back to her phone whenever I had the chance, and I saved everything. Every late-night text, every photo she sent, every word she wrote to the man she betrayed me with. I created folders and organized them by date. I wrote down notes that matched her excuses to the reality of her secret meetings. If she said she was visiting her sister, I had proof she was with him instead. If she said she was running errands, I had screenshots showing her telling him she was on her way. I gathered call logs that showed long conversations in the middle of the night, times when she told me she was too tired to talk. I printed everything out so I would have physical copies. I stored them carefully, page after page, until the stack was thick and heavy, like the weight of all the years she had betrayed me. I even copied everything onto a drive, so that if she ever tried to delete or destroy anything, I would still have it all safe. I knew this folder would be my weapon. It was not just paper, not just messages, not just photos. It was the truth she thought I would never find. Looking at the pile of evidence made me feel a strength I had not felt in a long time. For months, I had been walking around broken, humiliated, carrying her insults like chains. But now I had something stronger than insults. I had proof. I knew that one day, when the time was right, I would open this folder in front of everyone, and her entire mask would shatter. She thought she was clever, thought she could mock me openly because she believed her secret was safe. But I was holding the key to her destruction, and I carried it quietly, waiting. I did not need anger. I did not need to raise my voice. All I needed was patience and the truth. And when the time came, I would use it, not to hurt her with lies, but to end her with her own words and her own actions. That folder became my shield, my sword, and my plan. The next family gathering came sooner than I expected, and I knew it was the moment I had been waiting for. The same people who had sat in silence while she mocked me before were all there again, filling the dining room with chatter and laughter. The table was set, food spread out, and she carried herself with the same pride she always had, smiling, talking, and acting as if nothing could touch her. She still believed she was in control, still believed I was too blind and too weak to ever act. I watched her carefully from my chair, my folder of evidence tucked safely at my side. She made jokes, laughed loudly, and spoke as though she was the center of the family. She even looked at me with that same smug smile, as if reminding me that I was the fool she had humiliated weeks before. But what she did not know was that this time, the silence I carried was not weakness. It was preparation. I had come with everything I needed to end her lies in one move. I looked around the room and saw the faces of family members who had once pitied me, who had once laughed nervously at her insults, who thought maybe her words had been true. I felt the weight of all the years I had given her pressing down on me, but I also felt the strength of the truth I was carrying. She thought this dinner would be another chance to sit high above me, but it would be the night her world collapsed. I waited patiently as the meal went on, as plates were passed, as conversations circled the table. She was relaxed, confident, secure in her lies, and that was when I knew it was time. My hands rested on the folder, steady and calm, because I had no fear anymore. I was not the broken man she wanted me to be. I was the man holding the proof of everything she had done, and soon the family would see who the real fool was. When the room grew quieter and the noise of plates and forks slowed down, I knew it was my chance. I pushed back my chair slowly and stood up. The sound of my movement drew eyes toward me, and the table grew silent. Everyone looked at me, wondering what I was doing. My wife looked up with that same smug expression, expecting nothing more than a speech or a toast, but this time she would not be the one laughing. I looked at her first, then at every family member sitting around the table. I spoke calmly, without raising my voice, because I did not need to shout. I said only a few words, words that cut deeper than any insult she had thrown at me. She mocked me for trusting her. Now see what that trust was worth. With that, I placed the folder on the table and opened it, sliding the pages toward the center where everyone could see. The photos were on top, her smiling for another man, dressing up for him, sending him the kind of looks she had not given me in years. Beneath the photos were the screenshots of her late-night messages, filled with words of love for him and cruelty toward me. There were call logs, dates, times, everything organized so clearly no one could deny what they were looking at. The family leaned forward, eyes wide, hands covering mouths, gasps spreading across the room. My wife's face turned pale, her confidence draining away with every page that was seen. She reached out, trying to grab the papers, but I stopped her hand and slid them further toward the others. I wanted everyone to see, because she had chosen to humiliate me in front of them, and now she would be exposed in front of them. The silence was broken only by whispers of disbelief. by the sound of people shaking their heads, by the shame that filled the room. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. The evidence spoke louder than she ever could. The exposure was complete the moment the evidence lay spread across the table. The family who once laughed awkwardly when she mocked me now sat frozen, their eyes locked on the proof of her betrayal. One by one, they picked up the pages, reading her words for themselves. Every text was another knife in her image. They saw how she called me blind, how she called me pathetic, how she laughed with another man about how easy it was to fool me. They saw her promises of love to him, her plans for secret meetings, her cruel jokes at my expense. Her voice had mocked me once, but now her own words written down mocked her. The photos were worse. They showed her dressed up, smiling for him, meeting him in places she had lied about. Family members gasped, some covering their mouths, others shaking their heads in disgust. Children who once looked at her as an example of strength now turned away in shame. The silence was heavy, broken only by the turning of pages and the whispers spreading around the table. My wife sat stiff, her face drained of color, her hands trembling as she tried to reach for the papers again, but no one let her. The evidence was no longer hers to hide. It belonged to everyone in that room. The truth laid bare. Her confidence was gone. The smirk, the laugh, the pride, all vanished in an instant. She tried to speak, but every word she tried to form was drowned out by the reality on the table. No denial could erase the texts. No excuse could explain the photos. No story could undo the call logs. For the first time, she was the one humiliated, not me. Her head dropped, her shoulders slumped, and she looked smaller than I had ever seen her. The family's eyes turned from her to me, and I could feel their respect return, not because I shouted, but because I had shown the truth with calm strength. She mocked my trust, but that trust had become the weapon that shattered her lies. The fallout after that night was swift and merciless, and it followed her everywhere she went. The same family she once stood tall in front of now wanted nothing to do with her. They whispered about her betrayal in every corner, and the disappointment in their eyes was something she could not escape. The name of the man she betrayed me with was spoken in disgust, and soon his shame was tied to hers. Friends who once admired her turned their backs. Relatives who once praised her now shook their heads whenever her name was mentioned. She walked through the house trying to hold herself together, but the pride she carried before was gone. She could no longer mock me because everyone knew the truth now. I no longer carried the humiliation she gave me. It was hers to bear. The respect she had stolen from me was restored because the family saw who the real liar was. Every call she made to explain herself was ignored. Every attempt to excuse her actions was dismissed. She had mocked me for trusting her, but in the end, she mocked herself, because her own arrogance gave me the strength to end her lies in front of everyone. The man she betrayed me with avoided her too. Once her secret was gone, he had nothing to gain from her. She lost him. She lost her family. She lost the mask she had worn for years. The fallout was complete. She had destroyed herself, and all I had done was show the truth. I sat quietly after that night, not needing to say another word. The family respected me again, not because I shouted, but because I had endured humiliation and answered it with calm proof. She had taken everything for granted, and now she had nothing left. That was the cost of her betrayal. That was the chain of her disgrace. When it was all over, I walked away from that table with my dignity restored. I did not need to yell, I did not need to curse, and I did not need to fight. I let the truth do what my words never could. She mocked me for trusting her, but in the end, it was that trust that gave me the strength to expose her. I trusted her enough to never check, but once I did, I gathered everything with patience, and I waited for the right time. She thought my silence was weakness, but it was never weakness. It was preparation. That night when I opened the folder, I showed her that the man she called blind was not blind at all. The man she called a fool was not a fool. I was a husband who had sacrificed, who had worked, who had given his life for loyalty, and I would not let betrayal be the last chapter of my story. Justice came quietly, but powerfully. She lost everything she thought she had, her respect, her family's trust, and the mask she wore for years. The same people she once tried to make laugh at me now turned their heads from her in shame. The man she betrayed me with vanished from her life, leaving her with nothing but regret. And I, the man she mocked, walked away with my pride. I learned something in all of this. Trust is not weakness. Betrayal is weakness. Lies are weakness. And the truth, no matter how heavy it feels, will always crush lies when the time comes. I left her to sit in the ruins of her choices. I did not argue. I did not defend myself further. I simply lived with the peace of knowing I had faced humiliation and turned it back on the one who caused it. That was my justice. Quiet, final, and complete. My final thought is this. She mocked my trust, but I shattered her lies.